Hi. Do you think that your own internal water gauges and any senses of internal shame are at all connected? And would it interest you to know that in clinical practice they are? It's just one way of looking at what I am going to share with you. So take what you like and leave the rest from this. In clinical practice, I observe that all of us, and I include myself in this, we are often operating from inherited belief systems. And there's a huge difference between what I call toxic shame, that needs to be unraveled and we need to find ways of releasing it, because I think it impacts our chemistry as well as everything else. And also, that is one thing. And then there's also inherently just feeling uncomfortable, which I think is very appropriately healthy when we have done something wrong. When I'm mean, cruel, nasty. Let me give you a really good example. This morning I actually wasn't mean or cruel or nasty, but someone walked into where I was having a cup of coffee who it wasn't personal to them that I did not want to talk at that moment. I was cherishing a moment for myself, and I was able to bypass an interaction with them. Now, that was appropriate for me, and I said a little prayer that if in fact they'd noticed me, that they wouldn't take it personally and that they wouldn't think I was trying to snub them, because it wasn't personal to them, it was personal to me and what my needs were in that moment. Now, if, however, I had deliberately snubbed them, I would feel uncomfortable. And I would then go home and assess what I want to do about it. Now, that is healthy, but in the old days, I used to suffer from tremendous toxic shame. And there are many, many writers who write about it absolutely beautifully. And Karen Anderson, who gave me the privilege of allowing me to have her as a guest on the podcast, she has written exquisite books that we will absolutely make sure you have the links to. And her work around shame is phenomenal, because when we inherit belief systems, we can get caught up in stuff that might have been appropriate in a previous generation. But often we're operating under beliefs that don't really work for us, and we get tripped into a sense of shame. Or we have been shamed, or we have been traumatized into shame. So the very unpleasant and obvious one is a child is sexually abused, and they take on the guilt that is permeated into their visceral system by the person who is actually acting out of sickness, is the only way I can put it. Now, unfortunately, hurting people hurt, and sick people can penetrate other people's lives with their sickness. And we, if that's happened to us, we need to choose consciously to get rid of that sickness and get rid of that shame that isn't ours. Now, what has this all got to do with water? When we are operating from shame, our self-worth and our internal sense of value, absolutely, the gauges have gone down inside of us. And very often our actions towards ourselves are bewilderingly confusing. Because on the one hand, we want to be healthy, let's say, but on the other, we don't take the steps to drink enough water, for instance. So our internal water gauges are affected by what we think and feel and experience of ourselves. So shame and water gauges, actually, I am putting together, and I would love you, I invite you to think through, even though you want something on the one hand, on the other hand, what are your actions in fact telling you? Are you drinking enough water? And in the winter season, I keep giving this tip, please make it warm water. Put some lemon in it. A lot of people just don't even like the taste of water. So please be creative. Do you like a slice of lemon? Do you like a little bit of orange? If possible, do not have lemonades or things like that with sugar in, because on the one hand, you're giving your body the message of, I want to give you water, which is what your body needs. And on the other hand, you're giving it sugar in it, which will trip your body up into an inflammatory process. And very often when we are participating in eating too much sugar, actually the underlying issue again is our sense of self-worth and value. So one of the quickest ways to change actually your relationship with yourself is to get hold of what are the roots. Are you wandering around with what I call toxic shame? And how are your internal water gauges? Take care. Bye-bye.